for all the flack that behavioral science got, the only solutions that the entire scientific establishment could come up with were behavioral. And they were: stay indoors as much as possible, wash your hands, keep your distance. Okay, now here, I think it's interesting to note that washing hands is entirely a voluntary behavior, because without employing kind of household Stasi, there's no way you can check on whether people are washing their hands. Now, what's interesting is that there are a very large number of desirable behaviors, okay, which you can't drive through law and you can't drive through economics, but you can drive through persuasion. The weird thing about government is that its order of intervention is first legal, second economic, and then it barely even considers voluntary persuasion as a solution to social problems. But in many cases, actually, the only behaviors that you can really create are those which are voluntary and, in this case, kind of invisible. Okay, now I'll give you a nice example of this, which again is a thought experiment. Okay, let's say, and I can't get any sense out of the energy industry at all on this, but one way in which you could reduce carbon emissions is a very, very simple thing. Don't ask people to stop doing something, ask people to do it differently, because behavioral science tells you it's always easier to get someone to adapt a behavior than to change completely. Yeah. So one thing everybody could do, which makes some difference, is put your tumble dryer, your washing machine and your dishwasher on at 10 o'clock at night rather than at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? Now, the reason for that is, you know, broadly speaking, the UK grid is pretty damn green late at night. And so it's less likely they'll need to crank up a coal-powered power station if you put your dishwasher on at 11 o'clock at night. Okay, so that would be a good behavior. I think, you know, let's just assume for the purpose of the exercise that that would help. Okay, well, a few problems there. You could make that economic, which is you start pricing electricity very differently. Okay, you could make it legal, but A, it's fairly difficult to police. Let's be absolutely honest about that, without a huge level of intrusion. Yeah. But there's another problem with the economic and legal interventions, which is a significant, you don't need everybody to adopt this behavior to make a difference. It's worth remembering that long before lockdown, a large proportion of the population had engaged in voluntary self-isolation. And it'd be completely wrong to think that R slogged along at 4 or 3, and then suddenly there was lockdown and it drops. Because I was in London on the 12th of March, it was a bloody ghost town. You know, there were 2 of us in a normally crowded coffee shop. We both washed our hands when we came in and we washed our hands when we left. I met someone, we bumped elbows, we didn't shake hands, etc. So an awful lot of the reduction of R probably happened through partial, voluntary, preemptive behavioral change. Yeah. But here are a few more problems. Let's say there will always be, in the washing machine, dishwasher and tumble dryer class, a group of people who you are now unfairly penalizing, okay? So if your next door neighbor's bedroom is underneath your kitchen, they won't really thank you if your washing machine hits the spin cycle at 3 a.m., okay? Yeah. If you work nights, you don't want people who work nights to go out and leave their tumble dryer on because it might catch fire. Okay. Now, the great thing about persuasion and social pressure is if you've got a good reason not to conform, you don't have to, and you aren't penalized. So all you need to opt out of persuasion is a good argument, which is, no, I'd like to put my washing machine on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but my next door neighbor would be woken up by the damn thing hitting the spin cycle, so I won't.